It's a perfect example of why some call cities like Baltimore a tale of two cities, but just how unique is it? Not very. That's according to Nsenga Burton. She's a college professor and entrepreneur who has lived in Baltimore for nearly a decade. I talked to her a short time ago.
Oh, absolutely. A tale of two cities is how most cities in America work. I've lived in Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Charlotte, North Carolina, New York City, and everywhere you go, you know, one half of it looks like Paris, the other half looks like war-torn Bosnia, right? There are two very different, and two is actually not even really a true reflection, but there are many different people living very different experiences in those cities for because of a number of factors. Well, a lot of them economic.
Well, let me ask you about that. What are the underlying issues that have become the underpinnings for this framework?
Well, I think we have a history of not only racial discrimination, but also economic discrimination in the country. When we talk about a city like Baltimore or a state like Maryland even, many people don't realize that Maryland is south of the Mason-Dixon line. So it was a slave trading state. You know, they still have plantations or remnants of plantations that are in the state. So you have a lot of historical remnants that are impacting now, you know, whether we talk about Jim Crow, whether we talk about legalized segregation, whether we talk about redlining policies, whether we talk about economic disenfranchisement that, you know, was legal at the times that they happened, all of that contributes to, and whether we talk about like post-industrial economies as well. These are cities that used to be industrial centers, and because of the changes not only in technology, but also in society and commerce, they're no longer, you know, those centers. Those are no longer places where you can get a job and live a good working class to middle class life. So, you know, all of those factors, I think, have contributed to these cities across the country and the tale of two cities that impacts all of them.
I lived in the suburb of St. Louis for a time, so when Ferguson happened, I saw a lot of the same issues that were going on when I lived there, also in East St. Louis, which is an educational disparity as well,
yes.
Which when you think about people in an economic, you know, doing well in terms of economic structure, it's all kind of based on education in many respects. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I mean, Baltimore's school system has been, you know, under fire for a long time and has been under producing. There has been some increase since Stephanie Rawlins Blake, the mayor, took over. You know, the graduation rate in Baltimore has increased from 61% to 68%. But then when you compare it to neighboring counties, there's you know, a minimum of a 20% difference in the graduation rates. And a lot of that has to do with resources. A lot of that has to do with access. A lot of that has to do with who we deem as desirable or those who should have access to a great education. And, you know, kids are not asked to be born. They come here, and we should, if nothing else, provide a good education for them. But because of a number of factors, that doesn't happen by and large for the vast majority of those who live in poverty in Baltimore City. And that includes poor whites, which nobody talks about in Baltimore City. And we have a lot of them as well.
If the 6 officers, and we're jumping ahead here, but if the 6 officers are acquitted, what will be the result of that, do you think?
Oh, I mean, we're going to have more uprisings. We can't assume that just because there's videotape, just because there is, you know, eyewitnesses, just because we have a very good state's attorney, Marilyn Mosby, who is seeking justice on behalf of the Gray family, that this case will turn out as many would want it to turn out. And if that doesn't happen, if they are acquitted, because, you know, the justice system doesn't mean that, you know, what's right and what's wrong always comes out, right? Then there will be more uprisings. There will be.
Nsenga Burton joining us from Atlanta. Thanks so much.
Thank you.